Okay, y'all, here is your report for Gate 50, which we will move into on October 20th. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of information so that you can be working with this gate. So as always, let's just kind of run down through the quick info. So from the I Ching, this is called the cauldron. And from human design, it is the gate of values. In the gene keys, it's the way of equilibrium. And in quantum human design, it is the gate of nurturing. And of course, there's a thread that goes through all of those things. So let's break it down. Let's start with the I Ching. This gate is a wood and fire gate. And really, it's about wood nourishing fire. And so what that means is that when we are in our maximum potential, when we are aligned and living our potential, then we become a light shower, a light being, a way shower for our for other people and for our communities. And so the cauldron really is about releasing and surrendering our ego. It's about what we're willing to sacrifice for the greater good. So we see this, it's in the tribal network. So it's a lot of this gate is really about the balance between being an individual with the tribe. Who am I? But also, how do I keep this harmony, equilibrium, and balance, which we'll talk about in a minute, within this greater context with who I am. And it's also this as above, so below energy. So it's really not just about me and my community, but it's also me and my higher power. And so at the cauldron level, it's really asking us about what we're willing to let go of and the narrative that we might be running. We'll talk about the narrative. And so that we can, what are we willing to sacrifice in order to be the best potential of ourselves and aligned with that higher will? And that might be part of our ego narratives that we have, stories that we have. And really, ultimately, it's about finding that harmony. So we are in the earth energy right now, as we transition from summer into fall here in the United States. We're in this earth energy. I will do a whole video for you this week as well on earth, or you might have actually already gotten it. But the earth energy is really about harmony, it's about balance. It's about connection. It's about holding things together. And this gate, we're seeing a lot of gates right now that are in the spleen energy, in the spleen center, in the human design chart. And the spleen energy is part of that earth energy. And that's really what it is. It's like we're working through some fear of the being rejected from the tribe. It's an instinctual fear gate. And so we'll look at that a little bit more later on too. But we're in that splenic center, right? So this is all very intuitive. It's what's best for the tribe. It's a little bit of it's questioning, like, that harmony and that balance. But it's also got this undertone of like, what is the dis-ease? What is the corruption? So when we look at it from the perspective of the gene key, which is the way of equilibrium, at the shadow side of that, we're really looking at the idea of corruption. Now, when people see that, they're like, whoa, the corruption. And Richard Rudd talks about that, like, oh, I'm not corrupt, right? But there's an idea here. When we're in that splenic center, when we're looking at that splenic energy, we're looking at karma. We're looking at this kind of ancestral patterning that might be passed down. So it's in our DNA. It's wound around our DNA. For us to have this kind of these disruptions to our template of our highest self, so that we can work through those and grow and emerge, right? And so we're meant to kind of root through those things. And we're meant to have challenges. We're meant to have to face things. We're meant to have to look at our, in Christian belief systems, this is like the original sin, that we have this original problem with our programming, right? And that we need to root that out and bring it back into harmony with no judgment or or attachment to the outcome. I mean, that's where we kind of get caught up in religions. And but the idea here is that even in many religions, right? So even like that the sanskaras, this idea that we have this kind of collection of things that were there at the DNA level for us as an individual, but also as a whole, the humanity as a whole, that we're kind of evolving through, growing through these challenges that are here, this corruption for us to face. And we see that in these epic battles, right? When, like, if we look at the hero's journey, it's really, this is kind of that pivotal point of when we are we face the corruption, right? Like our inner self stands up against what is wrong, what I mean, it's not right or wrong, but what feels corrupt. And it's always that point in the movie where the good guys like face off against the bigger powers of corruption and chaos, right? That's what we would see in the gene keys. The partner to corruption is chaos, which keep us in the illusion that we don't have control, right? But really it's about standing up to those things. And the more we stand up to the inner corruptions or what we have brought into the world, where we're willing to look at those things and stand up for ourselves to make a stand, that brings us that freedom. It brings us that harmony. It brings us, it ushers in this balance and harmony, which is these higher expressions of this gate. So we're really, the idea here in the lower vibration and the lower expression of this gate is that we have this kind of primal corruption, this original sin, and what corruption and chaos want us to think is that that's just the way it is, that we can't, there's nothing that can be done, and why bother, right? There's a kind of it wants us to kind of throw our hands up and say, I quit, right? And but really this gate is asking us to not do that, to not just throw in the towel and say, well, there's no way for me to get through it. It's we're really meant to kind of root in and dig it out, and we have the tools to do that. So the dilemma of this gate would be being passive and just throwing our hands up and not wanting to deal with it. But really, as we like decondition, it's kind of like one frequency at a time, like, one battle at a time, one whatever at a time. There's a lot of that kind of energy here. It's like, this battling energy, even though I don't always love those kind of analogies, but it's like, if I just keep working my way, when I talk to people in the alchemical process, we talk about like dealing with one part at a time, one wound at a time. And as we reharmonize, we reattune, there is a musical quality to this particular gate, as it is one of the 8 musical gates, which is more advanced. And we can talk about those things later, but it's like, what the idea here is that it's like we're tuning it up one string at a time until the whole instrument feels in alignment, feels balanced, feels harmonious, right? And so and we do that through being willing to do the deconditioning work, to say, wait, this isn't, I don't want to live in this fear, I don't want to live in this corruption, I don't want to live in this chaos, and I sacrifice the parts of me that are conditioned and attached to the safety of that. So again, we've got this tribal safety component here. And what this gate asks of us is to say, like, I might have to break that feeling of safety in order to stand up against something that doesn't feel right, is corrupt, is out of balance, is out of harmony in some kind of way. And as we do that, as we harmonize and we become this instrument that is tuned in and is tuned up and is resourced, then we can become a light shower, a way shower, a light being for others, right? We actually become what what Richard Rudd calls the beacon of equilibrium. So that takes us into the gift of this gate, which is equilibrium. It's harmony at its acidic state, but equilibrium is balance, right? So, and balance then begets harmony. And so when we look at balance here, we're really looking at the balancing between my individual self and my higher power, the balance between my individual self and the tribe, and the balance between my right brain and my left brain. So equilibrium is keeping those things in harmony, right? I have this one side of my brain that is logic and knowledge and wisdom, and I can meditate, I can observe from that perspective. But I also have this side of my brain that's creative and love. And so some of this gate is about finding that balance. Now, Richard Rudd talks a lot about finding equilibrium through concentration and through paying attention, right? So there's a little bit of that energy here is that equilibrium isn't passive. It's working to harmonize those two things. And that can be soft or that can be rigid. We can have this like tendency to be over too much in the love side and not enough boundaries, too much in the boundary side and not enough love, right? So it's too much in our mind, not in our body, too much in our body, not in our mind, right? So it's really about finding that equilibrium. And this gate is actually tied to the inner ear, to hearing in the inner ear, which is our vestibular system. And that's the same concept there in our ears. It's about the fluid in our ears. So what's happening in our ears is we have this fluid, basically, which these little crystals line the edges of, and that fluid, as it moves those crystals, it helps us right ourselves. So that's, often in vertigo, one of those little crystals has gotten loose or is not balanced in some kind of way, and it's creating this spinning sensation. And so that's what the vestibular system is doing for us all the time. It's kind of helping us find center. And that's what this gate is really about. It's about how can I continue to release narrative, continue to release the story that I tell myself, the unbalanced emotions, the dysregulations, and finding that center so that I can stay centered no matter what the world is doing around me. That's what our vestibular system helps us do. It's like helps us stay centered when the car accelerates. And so no matter what the environment is, we can stay centered in our body. And so that's really the energy of this gate. It's like, how can I keep this harmony no matter what's happening around me? And we're really being pulled into that right now when we look around to see, like, there's so much going on at any given time around us. Our environments are pretty hectic and chaotic. And so this gate is helping us to find that equilibrium, to find that harmony, that place where we can be soft and wise at the same time, where we can create the boundaries that we need in order to move through this world. And earth energy is about boundaries as well. It's about, earth is what kind of holds things together. It's the banks of the river, right? And so there's a container to earth. And that's a lot of what this is asking us is, as well as in this earth time, do I have great boundaries? So when we look at the gate through the lens of quantum human design, it's the gate of nurturing. So as we really evolve into this quantum human design, in my opinion, and I think other people would say the same. I think Karen doesn't, because she's incredibly humble, but the idea is that in our quantum human design, this is who we are evolving to be when we're working and have worked with the shadow, and we're really evolving. And so I always say this is where we're going. And so gate 50 is where we're going. It's this gate of nurturing. It's ability to find harmony and balance between how much we give and how much we receive. So this is really about releasing our narrative around our obligations to other people and our over caring for other people, our over nurturing, which we've had generations and generations of programming of over nurturing or putting other people first, or and so we're starting to, and the guilt that if we don't do that. And so as we evolve, it's finding that harmony between taking care of myself and my own needs, and being able to take care of my tribe. So from the human design perspective, it was the gate of values, which is really the balance between the individual ego and the tribal needs. It's a very tribal energy. It's like that, so that the part of us that needs to be sacrificed for the tribe in order to find harmony and find balance. And so when we look at it from that nurturing perspective, as the gate of nurturing, then we're looking at it as like, do I have these really great boundaries around taking care of myself, self-love, self-care, and is that in harmony with how I am taking care of others, how I am taking care of my tribe, taking care of my community, taking care of my family. And so in that, we're really looking at it as this harmony between giving and receiving, and how well do we find that equilibrium, no matter what way we're kind of breaking down that gate in its highest expression. It's the ability to keep finding that center, to use this kind of quantum creative adaptation in the moment to recenter, to let things go and recenter, to let things go and recenter, to continue to purge the narrative so that we can be centered. We can be, going back to the I Ching, we can be aligned with our best potential, our highest potential, and therefore feeding the fire, feeding the part of us that becomes a beacon of light, a way shower for others. So that is your rundown of Gate 50 for now. And leave some comments. Let me know what you think, how that's affecting you, what's going on in your world. I would love to hear, and keep following along for what all's coming next.